What's going on, guys? My name's Liv and welcome to Chasing Flags. Today we're going to be talking about McLaren, just because I wanted to start doing kind of McLaren breakdowns, because as a predominantly McLaren fan, I think it's important to talk about kind of how things are going and progressing with us throughout the year, and I kind of want to do that a little bit separate from our regular Grand Prix discussions. So today we're going to talk about the McLaren Formula 1 team and the Arrow McLaren IndyCar team. So first we'll start off with Formula 1, since that happened earlier on Sunday, and then we'll go into IndyCar and St. Pete. So let's talk about the Bahrain Grand Prix. Qualifying was not the best for us. We qualified 18th and 11th, which I think Lando getting 11th place was not terrible. That shows that the car does have some potential to be in the midfield. It's just about closing that gap and getting closer to being in Q3 and consistently. That will be a kind of a big target for us over the season, and of course trying to get Oscar into Q2 and Q3 I think will be an important thing to focus on as well. Wasn't the best qualifying that we could have had, and it just was a tough Saturday that led into a tougher Sunday. So let's get into the race. So the Bahrain Grand Prix starts and it's going pretty okay. We have Lando moving up a place into P10, so you at least have 1 point on the board. And then we have Oscar moving up a couple places within the first few laps into P16, showing promise that maybe he can fight with some of the guys and potentially get into the points. Obviously that didn't happen. That's why we're here talking about how terrible that went for us, because Oscar ended up having a issue. I think it was a mechanical and an electrical issue that ended up causing him to retire from the race, and that was not what we wanted at all. It's not what any fan wants to go through, but stuff happens, and honestly I'd rather this happen now than happen at the end of the year, but it probably will. We'll see. Reliability is going to be the biggest test for us. Last year, I think compared to some of the other teams, we did have pretty good reliability, but it felt like at times the reliability issues would come in and hit us hard. In terms of race ending issues, some of the issues that we had last year, there were a lot of mechanical and technical issues with Daniel Ricciardo's car that a lot of people seem to gloss over, and I feel like those are starting to follow us, because he had issues where he constantly had his brakes overheating. That never got fixed. Sometimes he had other issues with his car that needed him to put less pace. He obviously had that issue in Jeddah last year where he ended up having to retire the car when he was doing pretty good. And as well as Monza, he had that issue where he also had to retire the car. And I'm pretty sure there was another place, but I forgot where that happened. But yeah, not necessarily the best way to start out the season. And I'm hoping that as the season goes on, we can address all the issues that are wrong with the car and focus on having at least a reliable car to get us to finish a race. Because Oscar retired, that's not the debut one wants to have. He's been excited for months to get into the car and actually be on the Grand Prix, because I can only imagine how nerve-wracking it must be to wait a whole year to finally get to where you felt like you wanted to be the whole time. Now that he's finally here and he can't even really compete because his car gives up after the first half hour of the race. So that was disappointing debut, but it's not really on Oscar. There's only so much you can do in that situation, so we'll just have to see how it goes in Jeddah. And for Lando, I thought Lando was doing a pretty good job up until he had his own set of issues, which I think had to do with the engine and the pneumatic system. And also, if you hear any revving outside, there's somebody being a douche and revving up their cars, so sorry if that's in the background. But yeah, Lando had some issues, and so he had to constantly come back into the pits. I think he pit a total of 6 times, which a normal pit stop is two, but we did 6. And honestly, I felt like, why wouldn't we just retire the car at first? Because obviously you're just why even waste the time? But it's obviously not a waste of time. I think they just ended up using it as a chance to kind of further test their car, because they kind of knew that with this issue they were gonna have to keep coming into the pits, and they were like, we can just use this as an opportunity to gather free data to see what's wrong with the car and kind of how the car can handle a certain pace over the course of a race, I guess on different stints as well. So that's kind of what they did. They made Lando's car a test car, and he had to pit a lot, but he seemed to actually have some decent pace. I know he finished like a minute behind, I think, whoever was the second to last person on the grid, because he just had to keep coming in and doing like 30-40 second pit stops. But there were like times where he started to like catch up to some of the other like cars that were in the back, and then he would have to pit, and then he would end up going farther and farther behind them. There is some sort of promise in terms of pace, but it didn't seem like that because we were just last. And I don't really want to say, oh, McLaren's season is over, it's terrible, blah, 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 blah. I think that's a little unfair to say after one round. It's a 23 race season, and this is just round one. And last year, we didn't really have a great opener either. We had Daniel and Lando basically finishing last. I think the only reason we didn't really finish last is because of some of the cars retiring. And we had a very slow start to last season. So we're starting at that same place where we're starting with 0 points, and we're trying to fight back and work our way up to what we know we could do. And I'm being a little realistic in terms of the team goals and saying I think that we should strive for 5th again. Like, if we really can't, with all the upgrades this year, get into P4 or anything like that, just try to go for 5th or 6th, honestly, and just work your tail off to get the best car that you can for next year, because it's just difficult to say, how the performance is going to be over the course of the season. We're just going to have to wait and see. But I'm not going to say our season's over after one race. It makes no sense. I know a lot of people are giving McLaren crap, but that kind of just is racing, so we'll just have to see with time what happens. A very disappointing weekend for the start of the season for McLaren, and it's kind of sad. It seems in some ways that it's shaping up to be a rough year, but I don't know. I could eat my words, so we'll see. But I am excited. I'm excited for the race in a couple weeks, hoping that we can get back at it. And then at the beginning of next month, we also have, the Australian Grand Prix, so we have Oscar's home race to look forward to. And I think that going forward, we just need to have a good positive momentum and just focus on fixing the issues. Because, they said that I think they came out today, our team principal, Andrea Stella, and said that they have major upgrades coming to the car, and the first one should be around round 4. So hopefully that's true, and hopefully when the upgrades come in, we do a lot better. Because here's the thing, we have a new team principal. I don't know if we changed anybody else in our facilities, so that's going to be something to look out for. However, I think that this year is really going to be the year to see, how well things are handled. So our last car, this car was developed under our last team principal, Andreas Seidel, before he left to Alfa Romeo to be their CEO. So hopefully we're able to work out like the issues in the gap of like, okay, Seidel left, Stella came in, he got promoted, and seeing where Stella can take the team will be a big thing. Because I don't want to say that McLaren should like fire a bunch of people and stuff. I think it's too early to say anything like that, but I think that over the next couple of seasons, if we're still in this kind of downward spiral from where we were in 2020, that is something that we may eventually have to end up cleaning house and starting over from scratch in terms of the technical aspects of the team. But as of right now, I don't see the need to do that yet. We'll just have to see how things shape up. So not the best start to the season, but there's much to look forward to. So hopefully we can come back from this and be stronger in the next one. We'll see. So moving on, let's talk about McLaren IndyCar. Okay, they had a much better weekend at the Streets of St Petersburg. It was a season opener for IndyCar. Super exciting weekend to have both teams have their first race of the season, so that was pretty cool. And the McLaren IndyCar team ended up having a way better time than the McLaren Formula 1 team. Lap 1 was kind of chaos. We had that big incident involving Castro Neves, DeFrancesco, and Peterson, and a bunch of other guys that ended up having their race finished early due to a little incident. I think it happened when Dixon touched our driver Felix Rosenquist, and that kind of nicked him into the wall. And with them not being able to really slow down behind Rosenquist, incident ended up happening, and it took out a lot of cars. So Felix ended up not having a better race compared to his teammates. However, they were able to fix the car and get the car back out there, so they were able to capitalize on points and, of course, research for their IndyCar team. And I think that the team did a fantastic job getting Felix's car back out there after the damage that he sustained. So that was a pretty good time. Then we had Grosjean and McLaughlin and first and second for a while, battling for that lead. Just crazy stuff happening throughout the entire Streets of St. Petersburg race. Like, I took a nap. I was like, there's probably not much that's going to happen because I had to work. So I was like, I need to sleep before I go to work. And I woke up about less than halfway through the race, and there was just chaos. Chaos happened while I fell asleep, and I was not expecting that. But dang, we had Herta and pretty much all of the Andretti cars DNFing with the Grosjean and McLaughlin incident where they ended up nicking the tire barriers because they just kept going and they kind of just, there was nowhere to really go. I think they both locked up or had nowhere to turn, so they both just ended up in the barrier. I crossed my fingers because I was going to lose my mind if Pato crashed into the back of him. But thankfully, he didn't. He managed to sneak on past them from the tire barriers and end up taking the lead of the race, which I think he led up until the final few laps, and then he made a mistake and his engine shut off and then turned back on as he was coming down the straight. But Marcus Ericsson was able to overtake him and win the Streets of St. Petersburg, which congratulations to Marcus Ericsson. He's obviously a very talented driver, so I'm excited that he was able to win that race. I'm happy for him. I wish Pato would have won. Obviously, that would have been a better thing. I would have been way happier if Pato won. But P2 is not a bad showing for the first race. And yes, we got a little bit lucky because of the McLaughlin Grosjean incident. However, we were still going to be third potentially. So I think that to show that we're a potential front runner for the season is a good thing to look forward to. And let's talk about Alex Rossi, who also seemed to have a great race, making up 8 positions from the start. He started P12 and ended P4. So really stellar drive from him. I was hoping he'd get Dixon at the end so we could have a double podium, but didn't seem to happen. That's okay though. We still had a great time. And to have, 2 of our 3 cars in the top 4 is pretty good. And it's exciting to see what can happen. We could potentially get all 3 in the top 5. That would be honestly insane. So yeah, it's a really, really nice thing to look forward to. And I'm just so ready. I think the IndyCar season's going to go a lot better than the F1 season for now, because I think that the team has been building momentum towards becoming an actual contender. Because I feel like over the last few years, we've had some moments where we could contend, but we've kind of lost our way throughout the season. I think this year, if we can stay consistent, we'll have a very, very good chance of being in this title fight for real. And, I don't know who's going to be the top contender out of Arrow McLaren for the championship. Probably Pato, but wouldn't be surprised if Alex Rossi also snuck into the title fight with how he might end up doing the team this year. So exciting stuff to look forward to. I'm ready for Texas. Texas is a good track for us. We've had some good results there, so I'm hoping that it will be a good experience as opposed to what's going on in Formula 1, and hopefully we'll have a blast and we'll really be able to put ourselves in this fight. So that's it. Yeah, super exciting time to be an Arrow McLaren fan. It's a okay time to be a McLaren Formula 1 fan, but I'm still going to root for my guys every race day, and I'm wishing the best for them. So yeah, that's all I have to say about my little McLaren breakdown and kind of what I think so far after round 1 of both Bahrain and St. Petersburg. What do you guys think might happen? Who do you guys root for if you do watch IndyCar or Formula 1 over the course of this season? And do you think that McLaren F1 will actually be in this midfield fight, or do you think that Arrow McLaren might actually be in the title fight? Because I really do. I hope you guys have a great day, and I'll see y'all in the next one. Peace.